What's up, everybody? You got TheCarMan live tonight. We are going to be hooking up on hiring salespeople. This is one of those subjects that seems to have a bottomless hole, like as far as trying to figure out what's right, what's wrong, what should you do, what should you not do. Who knows how to sell what, and how do you control them, and how do you maximize them, and there's a lot involved in bringing salespeople into the game, but it is a quintessential if you are going to succeed in doing what we're talking about. Now, the smaller you are actually the salesperson, but the bigger you are, then you really are the salesperson. Even as a general manager with 50 salespeople, you need to be the top salesperson there. So you're going to be the guy that's always intervening and always putting the deal together. All right, but before we get into that, this channel is all about trying to share some education, a little knowledge if we got a little bit for you. And then also we've got an Amazon store. I might mention some stuff. You can check that out. And of course, if you haven't subscribed, we would definitely appreciate it if you did. Okay, and then before I get really rolling, I was getting a question yesterday. I don't know if it came in last night or this morning. Hey, what's up, my brother? But he was basically asking, hey, listen, if you're a smaller independent and you're trying to source out work and you're trying to source out, say like mechanic work or whatever you're trying to source out, he's like, what do you use for leverage? Do you just go in and balls out, or, how do you actually handle that? Well, usually very little conversation, actually. Usually, when I'm dealing with, say, let's just go a new shop. Let's just go with a new mechanic shop. Basically, I would be like very pointed. And I would say, hey, listen, this is exactly what I need. And I'm going to be supplying my own parts because I'm not going to get raped on parts, secondary parts. And period. So, and if they can't deal with that, then I'm going to roll with someone else. And then I'm asking for a completion time and what their guarantee is on it, and what, the turnaround guarantee time and all of that. And when they get done, I will expect them to produce exactly what they tell me they're going to, especially paint shops. Paint shops are horrible as far as blowing you off. Mechanic shops are probably second in line. Transmission shops, surprisingly, are pretty fast. Upholstery shops, they're usually right on time. And then detail shops, you're hit or miss with those. So depends on what you're dealing with and who you're dealing with. Glass people are usually really fast. But depending on who and what you're dealing with, you kind of get a feel for it. But yeah, you just don't play around with them, guys. You just gotta say, hey, listen, this is kind of what I'm looking for. These are my parts. This is what I want supplied. This is how I want it done and executed, and that's it. And they're gonna be like, man, that guy's a dick. But then they're gonna be like, I better have that car done by 12 because you don't want to deal with that guy. And that's who you gotta be. You gotta be that guy no matter where you're going. And I'm that guy all the time, even like with my used tire guys. Those guys know. Like we don't even talk. If I pull up and they've got their mark on their tire, they know that they're going to replace the tire they just put on there, period. And they're fast. Like, they understand when I get there, I want it done. I want it quick. And you just got to set that precedence from the beginning. And that's how you become successful at this. Now, there is no secret one you can find the right shop with. This is just going to be your gut instinct. The best thing to do is ask around, but a lot of people are not very knowledgeable about vehicles and the internal workings of cars. So that's how that works. And unfortunately, you can't really get good referrals because they don't know what the hell they're talking about either. So we're in the business of making money. They just want their car running right. So, remember, this mechanic guys are salespeople too. So they're trying to push, sell. You need a guy that's okay with just doing the work you want and that you can be pretty reliable on and get pretty much a decent turnaround time on. All right, that's my take on that. Do what you need to do with it, but if you need something specific, maybe I can counsel you on it if you get hung up on something. All right, salespeople. What about salespeople? God, can you imagine a world without salespeople? First, it would be a very calm world, but nothing would ever get sold. Salespeople are awesome. So you get, so somebody asked me one day, what's the perfect salesperson? Is it the guy that went to school for it, learned how to profile people, learned all the 16 steps to a sale, can memorize this, memorize that? You got that guy on one hand. Then on hand number two, You got the guy that's strung out. He's either an alcoholic or drugs of some sort. He has at least 2 warrants for his arrest. They're looking for him for child support. He has at least 3 mothers of the children looking for him. And he's scared to answer the phone and he goes by an alias. That guy will sell some cars. We don't really want him around because it's kind of stigma, but those guys, the more desperate they are, they can sell a car. But there's a few things that I do look for in salespeople other than whether you're one of those desperate people. And I'm going to tell you something. It's terrible to say, but the more desperate the guys are, the more pressure they have in their personal lives. I guess that's probably a more better way to put it. I mean, I don't think really hiring a crackhead is probably the way you want to represent your business. But you get guys that are really seriously in debt and their mind is definitely set in. They have to turn and earn and they've got to produce. Those guys are definitely your workhorses because they're going to do what they got to do to make stuff happen. Okay, well, hold on. Let's see. Hold on. I was just getting right into that, and I think Autobuff said something. What do we do if they put a mechanic lien on my vehicle even though they never finished the job? Oh, that's simple. Whoever your state regulatory system is, go ahead and file it. If it's usually it's the comptroller or something, Department of Finance, one of them regulates the mechanical side of things, go ahead and file it. File a FTA, Federal Trade, FTC, go ahead and file a FTC complaint on them. File with your state level, file with everybody, file for fraud and on down the road. And you will quickly find out they don't want to play ball. Like, don't even play with it. That's how you do it. If somebody wants to play dickhead with you, go ahead and show them what a dickhead is. And you go ahead and just file. Because number one, as soon as you file with the state, they're going to have to pay legal fees right off the bat. And good for them, because if they're trying to rip you off for not paying on, or if they didn't finish a job and they're trying to lien a car, they're trying to rip you off. If a guy breaks something on my car and tries to charge me for it, I laugh in their face. I do not even, it's like, don't break something on my car and then expect me to write a check for you. No, sir, you're incompetent. I'm not going to do it. And so this is the kind of stuff that people, I know it sounds rough. Like it sounds like you're just like unforgiving in the business sense, but you can't be that giving. And I'll tell you why. Because for every guy that you are trying to be, somewhat civil to or somewhat nice to, they're all going to stick it to you. And what I mean by that is everybody's out to hurt you. Like every one of the guys we just talked about vendor-wise is out to hurt you. And even these salespeople, they're not out to hurt you, but they're out for themselves. Like they're out trying to make their own deal, doing whatever they got to do, which we'll get back to in a second. But so everybody in the game that we're playing is here to hurt us. It's kind of like, remember Indiana Jones when he had to walk across the all the hot rocks or whatever, and then later he gets stuck in the thing and it's full of snakes. Well, that's where you're at. You're in the pit full of snakes, and you're just like, no matter where you touch, man, there's like 5 and 6 foot snakes there waiting to bite you. And that's how you have to perceive when you're moving forward in business for yourself, because everyone there is against you. I wouldn't say against you. Everyone there is for themselves, and they don't care if it hurts you to be for themselves. But that's probably a better way to put it. I don't think they intentionally are like, oh, I'm going to go get you. But if they see an opportunity where they can advance themselves on your shoulders, you can bet on it. They're going to go ahead and build their castle on you. That's just how it works. So the way I see it is, that's why I push them down so hard, because I'm about building my castle. That's what I like to do. Sorry, guys, I'm getting blown up on the other end of the phone. That's what happens when you're a car man, dude. There's always kinds of deals happening. But, yeah, so that's what I would do as far as that auto buff. I would not play around with those people. I would follow the complaints and start busting ass. That's what I would do. And even if you had to file a lien on it, file another lien on it. I mean, if you're going to junk the car anyway, just make sure they can't get it. But you would never have to do that. You could take it right to court and they'd have to throw it out. I mean, but sometimes on a $200 car, it ain't really worth it, but you get the picture. You can cause them enough headache, they'll release the lien, period, or you can complain with Division of Motor Vehicles that it was fraudulently filed, and DMV will remove it, period. All right, so salespeople. Here's some of the traps you get into salespeople. When you get into salespeople, you got to remember that they're out there and they're going to say whatever it takes. Not all of them, but let's just go with a lot of them. A lot of them are going to say whatever it takes to sell something, to get someone to buy something so they can make a commission, which we all get that. We understand that. You know, because they go literally every month from hero when they get done selling at the last day of the month. And then on the first, they're all zeros. I always hated that. And when I was young coming up in this business, because we used red for used cars and blue for new, and we would just box them up across the window, and you know, I'd have this huge long line, and then on that following Monday morning, dude, they were all gone, and I was just like everybody else, and it just sucked. But these guys do it. They emotionally go up and down. But the few characteristics I'm looking for salespeople is, number one, I'm looking for a family man if possible. I'm not saying to discriminate against the young guys, because they're actually good in their own right. But for your base, you're looking for people that are kind of grounded. And I guess that's probably a better word. Don't male or female. You're looking for a family grounded person that kind of has a sense of, you know, personal responsibility from bills, and you know what I'm saying. Like they're in debt, so they have to be successful, and they have to bring in money, and they're willing to learn because they understand what's at risk if they don't produce. That's a better way to say it. Young people are actually really good. And I'll tell you what makes a young person good as a salesperson. Don't ever be scared to take a shot on a kid. And I'm going to tell you why. Kids tend to they will do anything you ask them to do. If you tell them, hey, listen, I'm going to need I'm going to need $3,000 over retail for this car. I'm just being facetious, of course. But if you told them that with a straight face, they're going to go look at that customer with the same straight face and ask for that $3,000 over on the MSRP. And X amount number of the customers are going to pay it because they like the kid and they already got the little bond. And, you know, young people, they don't have all the baggage that the older you get, you tend to get. I mean, when I say baggage, it's like, when you're 30 something, you're married, 3 kids, whether you're male or female, you're dealing with the spouse, you know, the scheduling, the kids and all this stuff. And why you got somebody that's 21, he's just looking for fun on Friday when he gets his paycheck. He don't care. His mind's great. He's cool and good to go. You follow what I'm saying on that. So I definitely like, I do like young people. I don't like to load up the sales floor with too many of them. I usually I kind of keep a little mix of what's going on here. And the world we live in too. Now, if this is an American broadcast right now, so we're dealing with in America, it's always good. I mean, especially increasingly good. The more bilingual people that you have on staff, the better you'll be. Especially like if you deal with, there's just different places. Like, I'm sure, let's see, like Texas. Actually, here in Virginia, too, I've got a couple of real good friends of mine. I call him Rico Suave, but he speaks excellent Spanish. He's from Guatemala or somewhere. But he's just, everybody that's Spanish deals with him. And he's just so good at what he does because he gets both sides of the fence. So this guy's got the whole Spanish market locked down, not because he's that great of anything, just because he can communicate fairly well. So you lose a huge market of your Spanish base or Latino speaking, I guess it's Spanish speaking consumer base. And believe me, they got some money. Like there's plenty of them that got plenty of money. They got tons of cash down. And a lot of times when people are working and they're coming over on the work visas, there's a lot of them coming in at one time. So there might be 5 or 6 of them throwing money together to buy something because they kind of put it in rotation. So if you can communicate with those people, man, you really got a shot. And here we get a lot of people from, what is that? Is that Romania? Turkey. I'm sorry. We get a lot of people, exchange students from Turkey. We get a lot of people from the Middle East that are coming over for different, because we're a lot of DOD, Department of Defense and all that. So we get a lot of people with just different dialects that if you could communicate with them, you're going to get the entire market because no one else is capitalizing on it. So I definitely say as many bilingual people as you can get in the game, the further you're going to get and the more you're going to win. So definitely put that in your repertoire of what you need to get and put behind you. As far as experienced, it's always good to have a little experience, you know what I mean, as far as selling cars and stuff like that, to get it. But a lot of times what happens is when you get somebody that's used to doing things sales-wise, a lot of times they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and there's a lot of truth to that because a lot of times when you hire a salesperson, sometimes this ain't always bad. Like sometimes they got different ways of doing stuff, but it makes money and they're profitable and it's great. But every now and then, if you get into someone that's just like kind of a half-ass, do as much little as they can and move on, and they just kind of survive in that little segment, that's not always good. So keep an eye on somebody that's got a lot of experience and just watch them for that first week or two. Make sure they got the hustle down and they got the work ethic behind them. Because just because you've been selling cars for a while doesn't necessarily mean that you have the hustle it takes to get it done. So definitely watch the work ethic on the on those. Now, some of the other stuff that I find that's hard to deal with out there as far as salespeople go, I have a hard time dealing with people that once they're becoming dishonest with your customers, and it's on like a regular basis. Like if you have someone out there and you're like, that you find out a guy's taking a deposit, but he didn't forward it. Like, or in one case, I had this one guy. Let me tell you what, man. This boy could sell cars. I don't care to who, how, or what. I'll give you his first name. His name was Joe. He was the best car salesman, not car man, just car salesman. He was the best car salesman I've ever met in my life. But he was he was either an alcoholic or something. He had something going on in the background that kept him messed up. Like he would be out on probation. I would hire him and then he'd get back in trouble, disappear. Then he'd come back. And man, this guy, when I say sell cars, this dude would sell 40 or 50 cars a month. Like, are you with me? When I say good, this boy was good. So one day, I get this customer. He worked on one of my satellite lots, and he says the customer comes up without him. He was always with his customers, but this one time he wasn't. And for whatever reason, we couldn't get the deal done. And the guy's like, Joe, did we get the $300 back from Joe? And we're like, $300? What? We just gave you back your deposit. They're like, well, no, Joe told us if he gave us $300, he would guarantee no matter what, we got a deal done. So we paid him $300 cash. And I was like, dang, that is brilliant. And this guy is selling 40 or 50 cars a month. Now think about that. If he only collected $100 off each one of those deals, that cat's at $4,000 to $12,000 a month off my money. But once I found that out, as you can imagine, if you're losing 10 grand a month on one salesperson being crooked, I mean, that's 120 grand a year times 10 people. That's over $1 million loss. So you just can't play ball like that. So when people are under the table and they're crooked, you just got to say goodbye no matter how good they are, because ethically it's just not going to work for you. It's not going to work for your customers. And then you find out that the guys are curbstoning behind your back. Any salespeople that are doing that, and that's the art of, they take the customer and they're like, hey, listen, these guys are only going to give you $400 for your car. I'll give you $500 for it. Just don't trade it in. And I've seen that happen so many times I can't even tell you. And each time it happens, it's usually a pretty good salesperson that pulls it off. And that's somebody that's been doing it continuously. And why they do it is they go pick the little $300 or $400 car up, and then they turn around and make $1,500 that weekend and go screw off for the next 3 or 4 days and don't show up at work. I know that part's all funny, but the bad part about that is that's the dealer's money. That's your personal money that they're screwing with. So people that curb cars on the side is just can't be happening. And you can't have any cross-contamination. Like if they work for you, they can't work for other people. Because you never really know where their loyalty's at. So if they have a customer, they might think that they can make more money on them with the other guy than you, or vice versa. And that's okay. Maybe he was only going to make $2 grand where he's at with you, and he's going to take him over here and make $4 grand. And good for him, he made $4 grand, but you just lost $2 grand. So you follow where I'm going with that. So you got to keep it clean with these guys, and you really got to keep it regulated. Now, as far as working them, I pretty much keep them, I think salespeople ought to be around 40, 45 hours a week. And you need to have enough where attrition takes care of itself. So if you have a lot that sells 20 cars a month, you should give them enough to eat. So get 2 guys on there and let them split it. And one guy will do 15 and one guy will do 5. And once one gets lazy, add another one. I mean, that's how it is. It's like big fish eat little fish, and that's how it works. So that's how I would do that. Now, as far as giving them time off and things like that, I do believe that you shouldn't, there's just some things that are just sacred. Like everybody makes car salespeople work every 4th of July, which I think is bullshit. The Memorial Day or Labor Day and just stuff like that, I think is just kind of, you really should really consider those, let them off early and be a little bit of a family. Like Christmas, there's no reason to keep them there half a day on Christmas Eve. Like just let them go be a life and let them have a family. It's just something like I really got resent from being young and giving up all that time with my family. It pisses me off later than I am because yeah, I did sell cars during that time, but there's more to life than selling cars. Like screw that. So give them some time off and let them enjoy themselves. That's just my personal take. Not that it means anything, but that's just how I feel. All right. As far as training goes, you definitely you want to keep a sales training going daily with these guys, and you just want to keep them on their toes. And the reason is they're just like everyone else. The more you keep something in front of them, the more they stay after it. But if you're just like, oh, take the next customer, and the guy's like, you don't want to buy a car, do you? And you start getting into that old rut of just like the guy's not hustling and working to make a deal. And then you're not going to appreciate, or I'm sorry, then you'll appreciate my series I just did on that and what it takes to professionally sell cars. So if you got people that aren't willing to do the system and actually take cars for test drives, ask people for cash down, reverse sell their trade, if they're not willing to do due diligence, you need to cut them. That's just, there is no easy way. The easy way to get this done is the long way. The shortcut is the long road. There is no shortcut to making money in cars. You got to get them. You got to qualify them. You got to put them on the street. They got to drive them. You got to make them want them. You got to come back. You got to ask for the money. All these things have got to work in concert to make all of this other stuff work. So you got to always watch out for that. As far as what should you pay them? Pretty industry standard is you charge, because we're usually dealing with independents, but independents, they'll usually charge maybe $250, $300, what they call pack, which means the dealer doesn't pay any commission on that. So if a car cost $1,000, as far as the salesperson is concerned, it's $1,300 would be the cost. And anything over that, they usually give them 20 or 25%. And that's just usually the break. And, a guy can make pretty good money on that. I mean, you figure the average deal out there probably does $1,500 to $2,000. So if he's in an independent lot, that means he could be making anywhere up to $500 when he sells a car. You sell a couple cars a week, you got a guy sitting in an independent lot making $1,000 a week, 52 grand a year. Not bad money for sitting around taking the easy life, selling 1 or 2 cars a week. I'm sorry, that's just easy money. And you know what? Never be afraid to share money. Like when you are doing really well, keep those bonus plans. Like salespeople tend to really, really gravitate toward bonuses. Like if you're like, all right, if I've got 5 cars, if you do a 5-car weekend, I'm going to throw an extra $50 a car out. So you got a $250 bonus. If you turn that into 8 cars, it's going to be a $500 bonus plus all the money. This guy will have so much momentum going into that Monday. It will be ridiculous. And this is how car dealers become extremely wealthy. They key into the salespeople's greed, not greed, probably really need. They need to make that money. But they key into all that momentum that salesperson builds, and that excitement of that individual. He starts bringing customers in, and he starts asking for referrals. And then all of a sudden, you got a guy that was going to sell 1 car. Now he's sold 5 or 6 cars. But now it's created a frenzy. Now the guy next to him, the guy down the road, all of a sudden everybody's not having a bad life anymore. Now everybody's competing with each other. And now we have positive cash flow inside the business. Now everybody's concentrating and fighting over who can sell the next car, which is exactly where you want to be as an independent dealer. Trust me. You don't want everybody laying around with bad attitude. You want everybody up and at them. So that money goes a long way as far as motivation goes. But anyway, I don't want to kill you guys tonight. I just want to give you some quick tips on some salespeople and how you're dealing with them and Some of the best salespeople I ever met in my life. One guy, his name was Dan. He's passed away now. His name is Dan Shea. He's one of the first people I ever met in the car business. And when I was a kid, man, it was unbelievable. This guy would get a new plaque from Chrysler like every 2 weeks. This guy would get like some plaque like you got the Emmy of Chrysler or whatever. Like he was like, you're not just the best, you're the best human being in the world. Like, the galaxy has awarded you this week. And he would get these things, and the guy was ridiculous. He would walk in and be like, open it up and be like, is there any money in here? And he would take the award and throw it in the trash. I was like, are you kidding me? Are you seriously doing that? Like, I do believe in awarding salespeople, but this guy was a beast. So I was like kind of intimidated because I was so young. I was like, Dan, why are you throwing away these awards, man? Like, people would die to have this stuff. And he hit the nail on the head, and it stuck with me my entire life. He's like, boy, this stuff right here ain't got nothing to do. This company don't give a shit about you. Chrysler don't care whether you work for them or not. This company we work for, they don't care if we're here or not. This is just to stroke our egos to keep the money pumping. The only thing I care about is how much profit I made this week and how much is going in my checking account. I was like, damn, man, that's pretty hardcore. Like, that is hardcore. And the dude was just that hardcore. But this dude made 15, 20 grand a month as a commissioned salesperson. It was ridiculous. He didn't do a deal for less than $3,000 or $4,000 profit. If he couldn't make 3 grand, he held back on the trade. He did whatever he had to do. And people loved him. And a guy like that, there's a place for that guy, because how much money do you think the Chrysler store made on this dude? Like if he was making that kind of money, they were making 100 grand a month on this one person. So, I mean, there's all kinds of salespeople out there, but they are the key and the heart blood if you are getting going. And if you want to, you can actually put them on some of the videos that I've done, and you can kind of go through them and train them a little bit. And it's pretty self-explanatory. Once you watch one of the series, you'll be like, okay, I get the cycle of what's happening here. So we can kind of adjust it to whatever situation you got. And that salesperson will probably get it too. And you can make a lot of money. And if you're going to make a lot of money in this business, you will need salespeople to help you multiply and grow. So there's nothing wrong with them. Believe me, I've been one half my life. I had to sell cars. Then I became management, then the owner, then blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, I have to go out and talk to a customer. Even me, I have to make sure that whoever's working a deal hasn't lied to the customer. I have to make sure all the money that can be made is being made, because at the end of the day, if you're watching this video and you're either private or you're doing this for business, you are the ultimate salesperson, and everything's going to fall on your shoulders, and you cannot throw that on someone else. You can help people by sending them down the right way, but ultimately, you got to talk to that customer before they leave, or you may be losing money, because you can only truly count on yourself. But the better the salespeople you are, the higher your percentage go on selling and closing and making money. You follow that, obviously. But anyway, I'm trying to think of anything else that might be imperative when you're dealing with salespeople. I think I talked about it. And listen, guys, if you get a guy that doesn't have a driver's license, I know this is terrible, but like, he should have a driver's license. He's obviously failed at life a little bit. But that's not always a reason to not hire them. Or if they've had a DUI, or if they've had some kind of craziness. Now, I wouldn't be giving them a demo to drive. But as far as them working and selling, just because someone's had some, some black eyes around the past, and maybe they don't have the perfect history, doesn't mean that you need to completely be like, no, you can't be there, because there's plenty of guys that are just total douchebags that's got the cleanest record in the world. Man, they're drier than cracker juice, baby. They can't sell nothing. They couldn't sell a chicken biscuit to a starving dog. You know what I mean? Like, they just ain't got it. And some of these guys has got a little color behind them. They may not be the perfect pick, but as far as, they don't look clean on paper, but these guys can hustle, son. They can make it work. And that's the kind of, I wouldn't say I would load up with a lot of them, but I would have a couple of them around, because there's nothing like when you're being pulled over by the sheriff's department, you'd be surprised at how good you could probably try to sell them on why you shouldn't go to jail, or the judge, or they just start getting all kinds of life experience on sales, like outside of the car business. I guess I'm not sure exactly where they get it from, but every how they get it, they get it. And I'll give you a perfect example. We had a guy. This guy was, I'm trying to think of his name. His last name was Hill. Anyway, he passed away too. He was just nuttier than a fruitcake, but he was one hell of a closer. I mean, hell of a closer. I was sitting in my office one day. This is a young kid, and doing something with a customer, and I heard him talking to an older couple, and he was just like, he's like, I use State Farm down here, so and so, the insurance, blah, blah, blah. Man, he's like describing the office to the T. Now, I know he doesn't even live here. Like, we had hired him from Alabama, and he's in Florida. But he's describing it to a T. He has done such a good job that I'm thinking about canceling Geico as soon as I get done with my customers and calling State Farm and getting them to give a quote. I mean, this guy is walking the dog. He's like, yeah, my family, this is who I've used. My mother used it. I mean, on and on and on. And this guy is just laying down the bullshit. I mean, he is laying it down. And these people, this was a huge objection they had because they didn't have insurance. And he did. He closed them. He called that State Farm. He got them a quote over. He got it done. The deal sealed. Done. After all of that, guess what I find out? Not only does he not have State Farm insurance, he ain't even got a driver's license. And not only does he not have a driver's license, he hadn't even had a driver's license for like 12 years. This guy had more DUIs than Muhammad Ali had punches. I mean, he was just horrible as far as driving records concerned. But that's that guy I'm talking about. Here's a customer that was going to walk out. That was probably a $3,000 or $4,000 profit for the dealer. And this guy just had that hustle, man. He had that hustle. Now, he's full of shit. We get that. But sometimes, you got to be able to help people solve their problems and overcome objections. And he was perfect. I mean, he's got a few black eyes on him. And he was crazier than what. But he was one good car guy. All right, so, and I've got a lot of stories like that, lots of years and years of them, and I've been around tons of guys that were, like, crazy, like, you'd be like, these guys are just got a screw loose, but they were great car salespeople, like, people loved them, and so you never really know. I would just, the main thing is protecting your liabilities, which is when they're in the car. You don't let just any person go out and drive your cars around and get your insurance ran up when they kill somebody or run them over. But as far as them riding with a customer, that's cool. Let's don't even worry about that. And, watch your money, man. Watch your money close. Like deposits, have a system, like a big sign somewhere in the middle of that dealership that says, all cash is deposited by or received by, only to be received by so and so, like the register. Or we had an office manager that took care of everything. That's how we did it. And basically, it doesn't matter if a salesperson got anything. The receipts came in through a central location, and you had to sign off on it, and then they had to sign off on it. So there never ever was a confusion about nothing. So just be proper on your bookkeeping, and don't tempt them with things like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and screw off today, and you just run the dealership. Don't ever do that. If you're in your business, stay there, watch it. You're there, you've signed up, you pay the lease on the place. You need to make sure everything's going down the way it's supposed to, unless you got somebody there that's, obviously goes to church with you or has some type of trust that you have together. But as far as just strangers you've hired to sell cars, don't leave your business in their care. If you have a manager of some sort, which that's a whole nother video, you can hold him responsible. That would be okay. But as far as just, I've had them before. They would steal. I've had people steal my deposits. I've had people steal checks. I've had people steal cars. I mean, I've been through the years. I've just dealt with everything. Crazy. I had a salesperson buy a customer's car that he put in finance. Then he sold the car, and then the deal in finance fell apart. So then the customer shows up, and they're like, "You give us back our car that your salesperson took from us, or we're going to sue you." So, I mean, I've been down this road, and this is why you have to keep your hands on to the customers. Your salespeople, just like your lint vendors, need to know who's in control. You are their boss. It is your money. It's your responsibility to make sure they're not stealing from you. Um, you try to make sure that you don't, somebody's going to burn you somewhere down the road. You'd love to make it not happen, but it's going to happen. So the only way to protect yourself is to be involved and be a proactive dealer or owner, or manager or whatever. And this goes for any business. I think y'all would agree on that. You just don't leave people in charge of your money. That's just something you need to take care of yourself personally. That's how I feel about it. All right, guys. Well, that's probably a wrap for tonight. And I've got an idea for tomorrow. If you guys got an idea that you came up with or want or can think of, let me know, and I will definitely address it. Or if I've got something I addressed on that you want to, hold on. Yeah, hold on. I always go through the comments right at the end. Okay, all right. Hello again, everyone. Bob, hey, Big Cliff. Honor their end of the deal. Yes. Pretty girls and boys. Sounds familiar. But a Lien, competitive, that's happened before, LOL. Have their own gig. Do we need a written estimate on every car? Hey, that's a pretty, you don't need one, but you don't need a written estimate on every car. If you just need, the guy needs to know that you're serious. Like, he needs to know that there is no bullshit in you. If you show up and you ask, we're back to dealing with vendors again. If a guy quotes you, let's just say something like a wheel bearing, maybe you don't feel like dealing with it, or you've got to press or whatever. So the guy's got to press the wheel bearing out, and he says, well, it's $150. Okay. And then you get there and the guy's like, this is $340 because wrong. I will pay $150. And you need to tell him, sir, I understand that you're giving me an estimate. I will only pay $150 unless we have prior authorization, period. And the guy needs to understand that. And once you tell them that up front, there's none of this nice guy shit. Like, well, we were just doing it for you, sir. We just want to make sure you were covered. We want to make sure you're safe. Sure you do. You just want to make sure your pockets are covered. So you definitely want to hit them with, if there's anything extra on this, you have to verify it and you have to call me, period. I mean, you just can't, it's just like the salespeople. You can't leave anything out there you just can't leave it out there and assume that they're going to do anything that's decent or right. I mean, not saying they're all bad. I'm just saying, you got to keep your eyes on them. You got to keep your eyes on your trades. You got to keep your eyes on your deposits. You got to keep your eyes on the secondary. I mean, once you got a guy that's got huge, terrible credit, and then you got a crooked-ass salesperson, and great, between the two of them, they will come up with a deal. You just got to imagine when they get done with the deal that you're the one that's winning, not losing, because the salesperson will put you together, the customer will put the salesperson together, or they'll put each other together. Somebody's going to be trick screwing somebody somewhere. And at the end of the day, you got to make sure that you're not the one at the end of that stick getting, you know what I'm saying? So, and the same thing with the mechanics. I mean, it's just a big game to them. I mean, it's just part. I mean, they don't even diagnose shit anymore. They just change parts and hope that it works, which is a whole nother thing. But, yeah, so just don't leave the avenue open and be like, hey, call me, verify, call me, verify, call me, verify. When your salespeople are dealing with it, make sure you got your eyes on the trade. Make sure you got your eyes on the money. Make sure you're reading what's going down on the paper. Make sure you make contact with the customer and they get used to you talking to the customer, because that's when the lies come out, because they can't spend enough time together to cover all their bases. So if you go in there and you introduce yourself and start asking them little stuff that would throw them off on the deal, they can't lie about it. You know, the customer will tell you what's going on, which is excellent. It just keeps it real with you and the salespeople. All right, guys. Well, if you come up with anything you want to holler at me tomorrow about, let's do it. But tomorrow's Friday, so I'll try to think of a good one for you tomorrow. I got another one I was thinking about hooking up tomorrow with, but I'm not saying you don't come up with a better idea. If you do come up with a better idea, let's try it. And maybe I can bring something to light on something else we want to talk about. But, all right, we'll just wait and see what happens between now and tomorrow at 8 o'clock. We're on every day, trying to be around 8 o'clock-ish, somewhere in that neighborhood, but we are not a professional production, so I just get on when I can, usually around 8 o'clock. and we will see you later. Nothing but peace and love from the RVA. See you, baby. I am out of here.